In this podcast episode, Dr. Max Butterfield delves into the complexities of human relationships, providing evidence-based insights into romantic dynamics, communication challenges, emotional regulation, and social behavior. Topics include public relationship gestures, breakup recovery, rumination, rejection sensitivity, signaling interest, female intra-sexual competition, and the impact of social media on communication. The conversation also touches on personal growth, emotional stability, and the interplay between evolutionary psychology and social psychology in understanding human connection. The episode opens with an analysis of a viral moment involving Norwegian Olympic athlete Sturla Holm Lagride, who publicly confessed to cheating on his partner during an interview following his bronze medal win. Dr. Butterfield discusses the implications of using a career-defining moment as a platform for personal relationship issues. He differentiates between whether this was a planned act or an impulsive emotional outburst, noting that either way, such grand public gestures often do more harm than good. He emphasizes that while the athlete's confession might stem from genuine guilt and a desire for reconciliation, its public nature risks damaging not only that relationship, but also the athlete's social reputation broadly. The discussion highlights the critical need for emotional self-regulation before making such significant disclosures, especially under public scrutiny, as dysregulated expressions can backfire catastrophically. Dr. Butterfield explores common responses following breakups, underscoring that the conventional wisdom of grand romantic gestures is often counterproductive. He introduces the psychological concept of approach-avoidance, explaining that individuals often oscillate between desiring connection and fearing further hurt, leading to inconsistent attempts to repair relationships. He uses the metaphor of coaxing a scared cat from under a car to illustrate the importance of patience and gradual progress rather than rushing through emotional repair. The priority after a breakup is to practice emotional regulation, to slow down impulses, manage anxiety, and rebuild connection incrementally rather than through dramatic overtures that may overwhelm the other person and exacerbate rejection. The episode emphasizes the vital role of emotional regulation as foundational to healthy relationships and personal well-being. Dr. Butterfield discusses how dysregulation manifests in fight-or-flight responses during relationship stress and breakups, making it challenging to think clearly or act appropriately. He advocates for practical interventions such as distraction via immersive activities, physical exercise to improve sleep quality, and small adjustments in daily routines, like avoiding immediate phone checking upon waking. These simple behavioral shifts can interrupt cycles of rumination and anxiety, facilitating emotional recovery. He also reflects on the biological underpinnings of regulation, including the role of substances like beta blockers in blunting anxiety responses during high-pressure situations, such as legal cross-examinations. Dr. Butterfield offers a nuanced perspective on rumination, explaining that although it can often feel punishing and harmful, it may serve adaptive functions. From an evolutionary standpoint, rumination reinforces learning from mistakes to avoid future harm and may provide a type of cognitive stimulation even if it is negatively valenced. He notes that humans have a strong aversion to uncertainty and prefer collapsing ambiguous situations into definitive interpretations, often catastrophizing in the process. This tendency results in persistent negative thought loops that can reinforce themselves cognitively. Recognizing the function rumination serves is a critical step toward managing it. Breaking routines, consciously disputing anxious thoughts with incremental self-questioning, and engaging in healthy distractions are key tactics recommended to disrupt maladaptive rumination cycles. A significant point of discussion centers on the contrast between easy compassion for others and the difficulty of self-compassion. Dr. Butterfield highlights that people often judge themselves far more harshly than they judge others, especially when grappling with guilt or shame after personal failings like cheating. He mentions emerging research led by Kristen Neff on interventions to promote self-compassion, such as writing letters to oneself as one would to a friend. The cultivation of self-compassion is presented as a cutting-edge area in psychology, critical for emotional healing, yet currently lacking widely established therapeutic tools. Rejection sensitivity is introduced as a psychological trait characterized by heightened perception of social rejection, often seeing rejection where none exists. This trait is particularly impactful in romantic contexts, driving harmful cycles of withdrawal, misinterpretation, and social turbulence. Dr. Butterfield connects higher rejection sensitivity to neurodivergent populations, including those with autism spectrum disorder and ADHD, and personality disorders, where it forms part of broader cognitive and emotional processing differences. This sensitivity worsens miscommunication and can sabotage relationships through unrealistic assumptions about partner intent and feelings. The conversation addresses how men and women can better signal romantic interest in an era where boundaries and social norms around consent have become more cautious and complex. Dr. Butterfield advocates for straightforwardness and authenticity in communication. Simple compliments or direct expressions like, "I like you," serve better than ambiguous or overly flirtatious behavior that risks misunderstanding or discomfort. He points to the effects of social media and texting as barriers to clear signaling due to loss of nonverbal cues, leading to overthinking and anxiety. The episode critiques reliance on scripted or crowdsourced text replies, urging a return to basic, honest human interaction for more meaningful connection. An often overlooked and less discussed topic, female intra-sexual competition, receives considerable attention. Dr. Butterfield describes the complexity and covert nature of competition among women, including subtle social maneuvers and status signaling that are rarer and more socially censored in public discourse. He recounts anthropological and psychological perspectives, illustrating how women exert social power and compete, often through indirect aggression or manipulation, rather than physical confrontation. The episode critiques cultural taboos around discussing female competitiveness openly and recognizes the evolutionary and social contexts in which these dynamics arise, framing them as empowering rather than merely problematic. The episode delves into the problematic role of passive aggression, especially in romantic and social relationships. Dr. Butterfield explains that indirect aggression is not exclusively feminine but exists in both sexes, though women may favor it more due to social norms and the relative risks of physical confrontation. He stresses that passive-aggressive communication often obscures true feelings, leading to misunderstanding and unresolved conflicts. The need for learning straightforward communication is emphasized, alongside the challenge of balancing openness without oversharing. The societal pressures, particularly online, that inhibit clear communication due to fear of cancellation or misinterpretation further complicate this dynamic. Dr. Butterfield discusses how modern communication environments, particularly social media, impede genuine connection and authentic discourse. Algorithms and curated echo chambers foster polarization and reduce opportunities for real-time feedback and learning through social interaction. He reflects on the paradox that while social media facilitates mass connection, it also immobilizes many in cautious, coded, or sarcastic speech patterns that prevent true vulnerability. This dynamic increases misunderstandings and amplifies conflict, turning debates into hostile encounters rather than productive conversations. He advocates for extending gracious interpretations to others' intentions to reduce reactivity and improve dialogue quality. The discussion touches on the utility and limitations of personality traits, specifically conscientiousness, agreeableness, and moderate openness, as predictors of relationship compatibility. Dr. Butterfield notes that these traits fluctuate over the lifespan and can be situation-dependent, cautioning against rigid application of personality frameworks in partner selection. Instead, he suggests these traits should serve as lenses for understanding current relational dynamics rather than immutable criteria. Compatibility involves alignment not just in traits, but also in emotional regulation, communication styles, and the ability to tolerate uncertainty. Emotional stability, defined as the ability to recover quickly from emotional perturbations and return to baseline, is identified as one of the most important qualities in a partner. The episode credits contemporary relationship researchers, including Sarah Hill and David Buss, on emphasizing emotional regulation's impact on relationship success. Emotional stability facilitates resilience in the face of inevitable conflicts and stress, enabling partners to navigate difficulties without prolonged distress or reactive escalation. Dr. Butterfield briefly engages with the ovulatory shift hypothesis, discussing studies showing differential female attraction to masculine traits during ovulation phases. While acknowledging controversy and replication challenges in this area, he affirms the value of evolutionary psychology in generating hypotheses about mate preferences and behavior. The broader conversation favors an eclectic integration of evolutionary and social psychology approaches to better understand the fluid and context-sensitive nature of human romantic behavior. Central to the episode is the theme of learning to tolerate uncertainty, both in life and relationships. Dr. Butterfield shares personal experiences, illustrating that adulthood often brings increased ambiguity rather than resolution. He credits practices like running for aiding cognitive and emotional processing through meditative, contemplative engagement with difficult thoughts. The value of experimentation, quitting ineffective habits or roles, and embracing change is underscored as a path toward finding individual growth and satisfaction, contrasting societal pressure to persist rigidly without reassessment. The episode closes by emphasizing that healthy communication requires practice, feedback, and balance between honesty and discretion. Oversharing can be harmful, but guarded expression impedes intimacy and clarity. Dr. Butterfield highlights the importance of social context and personal safety in determining communication modes. He also points out that fear of criticism and cancel culture diminishes many people's willingness to express themselves openly, leading to increased polarization and misapprehension. Cultivating straightforwardness, combined with empathy and patience, is advised as a means to improve relational connection. Discussing common mixed signals in relationships, particularly in gendered communication, Dr. Butterfield theorizes that indirect expressions such as "leave me alone" mask desires for attention or care due to cultural conditioning and self-protective behaviors. This form of communication complicates romantic interaction and can perpetuate misunderstanding. Teaching clearer communication and encouraging honesty about emotions is presented as a critical developmental objective in both individual and societal contexts. Throughout the conversation, Dr. Butterfield cautions against simplistic, universal relationship rules derived from isolated events or social media soundbites. He advocates for appreciating complexity, situational variability, and personal differences while resisting the urge for easy answers. This measured approach prioritizes nuanced understanding and ongoing learning over dogmatic prescriptions, recognizing the inherently uncertain and dynamic nature of human relationships.